Hey, ladies and gentlemen, how are you? My name is David Ruff, and I'm coming to you with this crazy story that's coming out of Canada today, which is $2 billion going to rent to own housing, 17,000 units. We got to figure out what on earth is this, right? $2 billion is a lot of money for people. And we want to know, how is this being done? Who's spending this money? Who is it going to help? Is it a good idea? And is it something for you? Let's get right into the article, you guys. If we jump straight away into this article, I think it's kind of crazy. The Canadian government is to fund a rent to own program under $2 billion plan, which is to me quite shocking. Let's get into this article, and we're going to have to get through some nuts and bolts. I'm going to put some stuff up on the screen, and we're going to go through it. It says the funding would go to creating some 17,000 new homes across the country. All right, well, that sounds good, right? Canada is moving ahead with its rent to own housing program. You can find this article if you want on the Financial Post. And they want to double the number of building that is going to go on. Of course, we need that, right? It says the program would also help housing providers develop and pilot a new rent-to-own model aimed at creating a path for Canadians transitioning from renting to buying their first home. I mean, this sounds great, right? Rainbows and butterflies. It's going to help renters buy a house. Help renters buy a house. This sounds great, right? All right, let's get into it a little bit more. This option's been around for a long time, but I'm telling you, it's probably not for you. Why? We're going to get into that. Tackling housing affordability is a complex problem, they say. This is Trudeau, by the way, Prime Minister of Canada. Tackling housing affordability is a complex problem. Simplistic solutions are simply not going to solve the problem. I got a simple answer for you. Just build more homes. No more of these programs all the time. Just build more homes. Make it easy for builders to build more homes. Everything is supply and demand. So that's all the information I have from the Financial Post, right? That we're going to be starting that, and it's going to be rent to own 17,000 homes. Now, what is rent to own? So I want you to go to that trusted website called Investopedia. Okay, go over to Investopedia and look it up. Rent to own. This is very important. How the process works. Then we're going to put it up on the board. These are some things that I have highlighted here. It's a process in which you rent a home for a certain period of time. That's often with the option to buy it at the end of the lease. Sounds good? Rent to own agreements consist of two parts: a lease and the option to buy. Okay, fair enough. I can follow there. You'll pay rent throughout the course of the lease. In some cases, a percentage of the payment may be applied to the purchase price. Okay, that's important. If I got to pay rent and they're going to give me some of that rent back to pay for my home, that's important. Now, this is where you have to be careful, according to Investopedia. Non-refundable upfront fees. Uh-oh. Now we're in danger territory. In a rent-to-own agreement, you, as the buyer, pay the seller a one-time, usually non-refundable upfront fee called the option fee, option money, or option consideration. This fee is what gives you the option to buy the house in some date in the future. This fee is often negotiable. There's no standard rate. It's typically between 1% and 5%. I need you to remember what this means. You have to come up with 1 to 5% of that money on your own as a whammo deposit on the home. You got to pay that. You got to come up with that money. That's a lot of cash. Okay, let's continue. So remember, you got to pay that huge whack up front. Applying rent to the principal. Investopedia continues there. The question is whether a portion of each payment is applied to the eventual purchase price. As an example, if you pay $1,200 a month for 3 years and 25% of that is credited toward the purchase, you'll earn $10,800 in credit. So it does the math. $1,200 times 25% is $300. So you get $300 in toward the purchase of the home for 36 months, 3 years, $10,800. Typically, the rent is slightly higher than the going rate in the area. This is super important. Typically, the rent is slightly higher than the going rate in the area. But make sure you know what that premium is. Also, another whammo, rent to own home maintenance. Are you guys getting this? Because it's so important. Rent to own, number one, huge down payment. Number two, a higher rent than everywhere in the area. And number three, maintenance. Investopedia, it continues, depending on the terms of the contract. For sure, it's always dependent. You may be responsible for maintaining the property and paying for repairs. Yeah. You also have to pay for the repairs. So you got to pay for the repairs, higher rent rate, and a big chunk up front. Wow, that's a lot of extra expenses. Okay. So you can buy the property afterward. Yes. Investopedia continues, the ideal rent-to-own candidate. It says the ideal rent-to-own candidate is, let's hear. While rent-to-own agreements have traditionally been geared toward people who can't qualify for conforming loans, meaning you're having trouble getting a regular mortgage because your interest rate is low or your credit score is low or something is bad. You have some bad credit history going on in your life, so you can't get a loan anywhere else. So this is a last resort, but it feels like whenever I've seen them, it's not very popular in Canada, super popular in the United States. It feels like ripping people off and taking advantage of somebody. That's what it feels like to me. All right, so let's give some examples, okay? I'm going to pull this up on the screen. So you have a rent to own here, and I have it here that there's these nice rows of houses, and there's these two houses that are right next door to each other, and they're charging different rents on these homes, different rents. So one home is going to be $2,000 a month, okay? And one home is going to be $2,400 a month. Wow. Okay. This is really, really different on those prices, right? $2,000 and $2,000, 2.4K per month. That's a big difference. So remember, if you were just going to go rent the home, you'd pay $2,000, but because it's rent to own, they're going to charge you $2,400 up front for the home. So it's not the same. It's not the same. Now, this program, the government wants to spend $2 billion for this program, which I think is predatory. 2 billion. So we only have 10 million or 14 million workers in in Canada. And on rough math, it's around $14,000 per worker that they are adding to their tax bill. So we're going to have to pay $14,000 per worker so that they can now go and rip off more Canadians by paying $2,400 in rent. I don't like that. Okay, so let's continue down. What is a deposit? We have to put a deposit, as we learned on these properties. We have to put a deposit of 1 to 5% down. The average home in Toronto, where I am, it's $1.2 million. So imagine it could be easily $40,000 as a deposit. So now all of a sudden, you are somebody who cannot afford a property. You have no credit, no income, yet you're supposed to come up with 40 grand down on that house. The government's trying to help you. So they're saying, give us $40,000 up front. Okay, up front, maybe you can swallow that. In addition, did you see when I was saying up here, one home was 2 grand, one was 2,400. So one home could be $400 more per month. Now, if you add that up, what is $400 more per month? It's $4,800 a year. If I got to rent it for 4 years, that's another $20,000 that they've taken from me. So now how much am I out? 40 grand and 60 grand. 20 grand. That comes to a total of $60,000 in total that I've put out of pocket. Now, the government does tell you you're going to be able to get a portion of something back. What can you get back? They're giving you this 20 grand. You can use this 20 grand toward the purchase of the home. Okay. 20 G's. They've charged you $400 more a month for 4 years. That's $20,000. You can get that $20,000 as a credit to you when you go to buy the home. That's why you're paying $2,400. But remember, you already gave them 40 grand. That 40 grand is non-refundable. Okay. But remember, this is only for low credit people that can get this. Only for low credit people. The best news that you could do is if you cannot buy the home at the end, if you can't, you now have lost the 40,000 and you've lost the extra $400 a month on top of that for those 4 years. You're out another 60 grand for people who can least afford it, and the banks won't lend them money. So you're out, way out. The percentage of people that actually use this and actually go through with it is like 5-10%. Hardly any people actually can turn their lives around in that amount of time and buy the home. So if they're not using it, the government just pockets all that extra money. So this is my advice to you. Keep saving. Repair your credit with credit repair services. Buy later. Don't get into this. And they are going to be pulling 17,000 families into this. 17,000 families. And I don't want anybody to get smushed like a cockroach, with that. So not only do you have to pay an extra $40,000 up front, maybe, remember 1 to 5%. Not only do you have to pay another $400 a month, you also have to pay for all of your own repairs. Now we're talking cost on cost on cost on cost on cost, right? So this is to me, like payday loans going in there. Now they haven't released all the details. Okay. They haven't released all the details, but as you saw, I'm pulling up Investopedia. This has been around for decades. People all over have done this, and it does help some people, but a very small percentage. The majority of the time, you'll pay that big chunk up front. The government takes it, puts it in their pocket, or whoever the landlord will be. They take that cash and they're running away with it, right? They can use it for all those years, and it's usually non-refundable. So huge price up front, huge bump in your rent every single month, and you have to pay all your repairs. So you got to have a lot of extra cash laying around. Not a lot of people have that extra cash laying around, right? Who has that cash laying around? Let alone somebody who's scraping by and probably has very terrible credit because they couldn't afford to pay their bills and feed their kids. So I don't like it. Will they come up with a better program funded by the government? So, already I don't like the program. And then on top of it, for them to open the program, they want to charge, every worker $14,000 for it. Every worker. I mean, I feel that there's much better ways for us to spend our money. I don't know. Am I crazy? I'd like to know if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'd like you to leave a comment. If you think I'm right, I'd like you to leave a comment as well. And if you know anybody who is thinking of doing a lease to own, maybe they should call me. I'd love to talk to them. I'd love to get you out. If you know one person that this could help, please send it to them. I don't like it, but I'd love to see if you could change my mind. I would like to see it. Of course, a landlord would love it. A government would love it, right? We have this whole movement going toward you rent everything, right? So will that be? I don't know. Let's see what happens. But until then, I don't want it. I don't like it. I don't think it's for you, but tell me what you think. Please remember to like and subscribe to this. Follow me on my channel. It would really help me out. We really appreciate it. I love you. I'm looking out for you.